I was like, oh man, I think my life's done. There were days where I had no idea. Like, I was like, what am I reading? Like, something like this is inevitable to happen. If anything, I've learned how to deal with adversity better.
Welcome back to another episode of KKC Consulting. With me today, I have Karan. He's come all the way from Tidal Commerce. Now, Karan, thank you so much for coming on today.
Pleasure.
That's
How are you
amazing.
doing?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing, boss?
Very well, man. Thank
That's
you.
amazing. And I mean, we can get started, but before anything, I want you guys to just really look at the merge, the whole production lighting. We're upgrading, which is amazing. But yeah, back to the whole podcast. Karan, once again, thank you so much for coming on. I'll just pass off the mic to you. Talk to me about your journey from university.
Sure. So after completing my education, I went to school in the United States. I did my bachelor's in mechanical engineering from Purdue. Then I did my master's in mechanical engineering as well from the University of Minnesota. After that, I was looking for roles and I worked in construction and manufacturing for about a span of 5 years across the two companies I worked at in these industries. And after that, I wanted to pivot into the business side of things. Engineering was fun. Engineering was great. Learned a lot of important skills through my time, like in my education as well as in my professional journey. And I just thought that, okay, I want to also start seeing the business side of things. Want to start seeing what the bigger impact of the work I'm doing in engineering has, right? Like as engineers, you sort of are pigeonholed into doing a lot of like the analytical and oh, do this calculation, prepare this sort of a report, like technical report and so on. I wanted to see that okay, all of this work, what is the impact it's having on the overall business? How are we growing? In what way are we growing? What do these percentage growth numbers mean? Like, oh, what is our YOY is so and so percentage? Okay, what does that mean? Even from a financial standpoint, like how is the money being made? Um, that is what motivated me to go for my MBA.
Fair enough. Do you mind talking to me about, because I feel when I speak to you, I feel that you love learning, right?
I
Whether
do.
it's going engineering, the whole
Yeah.
GMAT business, even what you were talking about early on. Do you mind talking to me about your love for learning?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm just a curious person overall. I have a lot of interest in learning about a lot of things in general, be it in geopolitics, astrophysics, deep sea, history. Like, I love learning about history of
I love history.
places. Like,
Yeah.
like to read books, mainly non-fictional books like political autobiographies
I
and
see.
like books on past dictators and stuff. But the main reason I like those things interest me is because I'm just curious to learn why certain things happened.
Mm.
Something which was maybe not covered in our history books when we were learning. And having all these authors and autobiographers talk about them. Not autobiographers, sorry, biographers talk about them. I beg your pardon. Um, it's very interesting.
Would you say that that's a big strength of yours, your curiosity?
I guess so. Maybe. Maybe it is. I mean, it depends on what the people seek as well. Even in a professional environment, if I really say that, okay, if you're in the business side of things, then obviously yes. People like to see the fact that okay, you're curious, you want to learn, you're interested in learning about their problem. If we talk about consulting, then yes, the client always wants to be happy that oh, this person is taking an interest in what our issues are. So I guess it helps. They see that nature, they see the fact that okay, this person is genuinely curious, even though I may not be curious in what the issues are. Uh, I am, but it's good to see that okay, okay, this person is genuinely a curious person. They want to learn.
Fair enough.
And I think it's also an aspect of growth, right? I mean, learning is something that should never stop.
That's true. That's true. I mean, even for me, I feel that learning about so many different things, it's fun.
Yeah.
Right? Being able to subsidize that for, and I don't mean to sound like one of those kids, but subsidize it for just scrolling on your phone all day. Just being able to learn, whether it's, like for me, I love learning about my religion, right? Learning about Islam, the Quran itself. But apart from that, even football, right? Like
Yeah.
memorizing all these
Yeah.
players' names. We were talking about it earlier, but it's it's amazing to just keep learning.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it helps a
And
lot, even with networking, connecting,
of course.
whatever it might be.
And it's not just that, like, I mean, learning from people as well, like, even like from my friends, from my colleagues and stuff, like, they all have their own strengths and stuff. And, like, some things which I see that, oh, wow, like, I would love to handle a particular situation the way they did. Because then I would be like, yeah, I don't think I would have handled it that well.
True.
So just things like that, like, also are very interesting, like, from a personal growth standpoint as well, not just from the knowledge aspect of it, but even from people, from experiences.
I mean, that's also one of the reasons I started this as a whole, because I really loved learning as much as I could, because I really feel like it's a staircase, right? Whatever you might go into. So you have a set number of steps. Usually you got to do it one by one. But if you have someone who was able to say, "Oh, you know what? Skip this step. It's not really that important." If they tell it to you, then you could jump like 3, 4, 5, go so much higher, because you're learning from people who have already done the whole process, right?
Great.
And I feel whatever it might be, whether it's football, like soccer, soccer.
I'll call it football, just for the record.
Whether it's football, consulting, even going through relationships, whatever it might be, learning from people who have already done the entire process makes things so much easier and more efficient, and a lot less.
But another thing in that is, like, just because something worked out in a particular way for a person, it does not equate to the fact that it will work out that way for you.
That's fair.
I mean, we all tread our own journeys. We all experience our own challenges. Sometimes you learn through that as well. You learn through the mistakes as well, and that's why mistakes is very important. Yeah. Chinese made up yin and yang thousands of years ago. No light without darkness, right? True. Fair enough. Now, moving on, I wanted to talk about. You have a very interesting journey, right? Very, very interesting. Fair enough. I guess so.
And I find it amazing, right? You tried everything out, so I wanted to ask you from your own lens. Yeah. Do you mind talking to me about engineering, going in the finance side, and now ending up in the consulting side?
Yeah. Going for my MBA, I mean, that sort of exposed me to a lot of things. I personally never really knew or understood much about consulting until and unless I got into my business school. And my business school apparently is like the hub for consulting. Like, a lot of consulting firms come and hire from there. And I think a lot of different business schools have their own, like, niches, right? I mean, if you go to Wharton is very good with finance. Harvard is very good with general management. INSEAD, on the other hand, where I went, like, we were like the hub for consulting. So I learned a lot about the industry, about, like, what it takes to be a consultant over there. The side of finance eventually came afterwards, after, like, completed my MBA. We obviously took finance courses and stuff. It's something I was always interested in. Another thing, right? I mean, it was the first time I was studying finance in so much depth as well. So it came with its own challenges, right? Like, I mean, I'd never read financial statements before. I'd never done accounting before. I know accounting and finance are different.
I see.
But, like,
so financial statements was your first time in INSEAD?
Yeah, like, I mean, going through, like, doing my very first accounting class, like, was the very first time I saw it was at INSEAD. So I was like, oh wow, like, there were days where I had no idea. Like, I was like, what am I reading? Like, it took me a while to grasp it. Like, I mean, I didn't do really well in those courses. But eventually, afterwards, after INSEAD got done, I started working at a venture capital fund for a bit. I started, like, understanding things better then. Like, even if, like, some companies would come out with their financial statements or whatever, I would start reading them. I would try to understand what are they trying to say, and try to make some sense out of it. I don't think I still understand them to the great extent, but enough. It's better than what I could understood before.
And I feel that's a superpower in of itself, right? Learning how to learn.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Like, for me, I was very, like, I didn't do a single business course in high school, except one in, like, grade 10, and I don't know what that was. But when I came here, I started accounting, economics,
You're
Yeah,
studying business too, right?
Yeah, I'm studying
Yeah,
business.
engineering, we didn't have the exposure to a
Exactly,
lot of those
right?
things, right? We had like
Mhm.
calculus and physics and other engineering classes,
Yeah.
courses we had to take.
And then for me, like when I was doing accounting and learning the textbook, what is this, right? It gets hard, but I just know that if I can learn this, then in the future, if it's something that I like and I'm really passionate about, I can learn that like 3x speed, right? Like for example, marketing. For my midterm, I think I studied like a day before.
Yeah, yeah.
Study a day before, but I love marketing so
There you
much
go.
that it was pretty
There
easy.
you go. There you go.
Right?
No, that's nice. I mean, yeah, it was difficult for me. I think that learning curve was pretty steep. That's to be honest. And like my friends, like who say were previously like CFAs, CPAs, they didn't even have to take an accounting course because they were CPAs.
Oh, I see.
But those who worked in consulting previously or worked as investment bankers before their MBAs, they obviously did pretty well on those courses because they understood, like even from like an industry standpoint as to how these things work,
You
how
can
does
piece out the puzzle.
yeah, how do
Yeah.
like one set of financial statements communicate with the other. I mean, I worked in purely engineering roles before my MBA, so it was a huge learning curve, and friends helped me out as well. So, like, thanks to them as well for their patience. Although I don't think I did justice to the efforts they put in to help me out.
Talk to me about that, the whole
Yeah.
friends, because something that I realized is
Mhm.
when I went a little backstory context, in high school, I was completely engineering focused, right?
Yeah.
Physics, chemistry,
Yeah.
it's all 4 years, right? So when I switched from that to business, essentially my friend group in a sense changed, right? Like I had my boys from
Yeah.
high school, but more so like I would hear different things. It would be a different understanding. Rather than talking about velocity all day, it would be, a little bit more like, oh, we gotta do accounting now. But talk to me about how friends progress throughout your life.
I can only say from the standpoint, like, and obviously in college and university, I think there are certain relationships you build at that point that stay with you for a very, very long time.
100%.
And then again, in your journey of life, people come and go. Um, believe everyone has some sort of a learning they give you, some sort of things they teach you. During my time at INSEAD, like I mean, I've met some really amazing individuals. Nothing but love and respect for all of them. Like they're extremely accomplished, very intelligent. They all are going to do great things going forward. I'm just very fortunate to have had the opportunity to meet with them, talk with them, learn from them, learn about their journeys.
Do you still keep in contact with them?
Quite a few of them. I mean,
that's
people
awesome.
are busy.
Right,
Everyone
right.
is like, hustling here and
Yeah.
there. Um, but even if it's the scenario where like, you may not have spoken to them, the relationships are such that like, when you meet them, you'll have nothing
It's
but
like
it'll be like,
exactly,
oh man, we
right? No
just
friction at
no
all.
friction at all. But that's I think also the beauty of how the program was. I feel I can't speak for other programs, of course. But what a lot of the alums always used to tell me when I was like, looking for business schools to apply to was that the alum network, the bonds you form at that in that time, they really stay with you. And I can now, in hindsight, I see how true that is.
Right.
Because even when we have alum meetups over here in Toronto, um, it just feels so organic.
Right, right.
Even if there's an alum who was not from your cohort, you meet them and you're like, oh man, like it just feels like it's just natural flowing conversation, right?
Because you guys have had very similar experiences in a sense, right?
So, but yeah, I mean, like nothing but love and respect for all of my colleagues at NCR. They all are fantastic individuals.
That's
It was just, I was very fortunate to meet all of them, like, and experience the life with them over there.
It's amazing you have like the sense of gratefulness for everything you do. I feel it's it's a very nice approach to things, and I'll be honest, I'm inspired from it. But talking about something a bit more exciting, I would say. Talk to me about your journey with football.
Ah, yes. I loved sports growing up. Played a lot of cricket growing up. Played a lot of tennis growing up. Um, football was something when I was in middle school. I had a really bad coach.
I see.
They were not like they would get the bad coach in the sense like they would never play me and like
Fair.
just whatever like sort of like I used to always feel very bad about it like that oh man maybe football is not my sport because when it came to tennis or cricket I would always be selected for things like cricket like and cricket is a team sport for example I was always like one of the first few names on the team sheet but in football I guess that was never the case. There were obviously players better than me. I'm not denying that. But then, even when the team captain used to go and tell the coach that, hey, we need to play him because he's one of the few left footed players we have, the coach was like, yeah, no, whatever. But this was like when we were like 11, 12 years old and like the captain was like 14, 15 years old. Whatever. I mean, I still continued playing. Like, I didn't play in school after that much because I just sort of felt discouraged. I felt that, okay, I'm not good enough. So I should just focus on cricket and tennis. But then when I went to university, like I didn't play like at like the university level. Then we had a lot of like rec related leagues we used to play in. So I started playing with my friends. The joy for the game came back again. Also, I used to watch a lot as well. Like I never stopped watching it. I just stopped playing. But then when I went to college, started like playing again, and I just fell in love with the sport again. I felt a joy up with it. And then I tore my knee ligaments playing the sport.
Yeah.
One of the worst injuries to have, man.
ACL.
ACL. I would never wish it on anybody, man. Like it's.
How'd you tear it?
I was playing. I was about to go in for a tackle and win the ball from the person who was like in front of me. He dribbled past me, and my like right foot got stuck with his back leg. I lost my balance and I like I twisted my body. Yeah, and I heard a snap in my knee, and I was
you heard a snap?
yeah. I was like, oh, it was just
the scariest thing, right?
it is because the funny part is right. You would have never had that injury in your life, but the very first time you have it, suddenly something in your brain tells you it's the ACL.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, and I asked this to my doctor. I'm like, how is it? I've had so many injuries, but never once did I feel so convinced that this is an ACL. He's like, yeah, that's just how that injury works. Like and he's like you're talking about sport, people can get it through various other ways, like even when they're climbing up and down the stairs something can happen and like, yeah, they may injure their ligaments. So
what exactly is tearing the ACL? Like how does it work?
so ACL basically it's one of those ligaments that is, I'm not a doctor so don't quote me please, but how my doctor explained to me, he's like it is something that it's like the brakes for your leg.
I see.
So if that is not working, like if or it's torn apart, like you'll just your knee will buckle and give way or something.
Oh, I see.
So I tore it in 2015. I got my surgery in 2017. For 2 years, I was not playing anything.
Right.
But it was just that I didn't have time to get the surgery done. So I swam a lot and biked a lot in those 2 years to strengthen other ligaments around that knee. So that when I have the surgery,
it'd be a lot
easier. My recovery time would get shortened up. And my doctor actually said that that helped.
Swimming especially, right?
I thoroughly enjoy swimming. So, anyways, that's the injury happened. I recovered, and I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna go back to playing the sport now. I'm too scared to play. It's that's another thing with that injury. I mean, a lot of people go back into playing sport. Great for them, but I don't think my head or my mind would allow me to play that. Like, I don't think I have the strength to play the sport again. I'm too scared to play it again because I don't want that injury again on myself.
Yeah, because for 2 years you could barely kick a ball, right?
I didn't even have not kicked the ball since 2015. So
Really?
2016, yeah.
Oh, I see. Do you still watch football?
Of course, I coach it as well. So
okay, fair enough.
I kick when I'm with the kids or whatever. When you say kick the ball, I've not played since 2015. That's what
right. Like I mean, like scoring from outside.
Yeah, nah, man. Like I dream about it, where like I don't have to worry about anything, any issue with my knee. I'm just running in a field, like taking three defenders on and boom, top corners, like
fair enough.
But yeah, the motivation then to coach came after the fact that I realized I couldn't play. So, I mean, my doctor said that, look, dude, don't think about playing because he's like, you're not a professional athlete. You need your legs for the rest of your life. So, be very smart about it. I'm like, well, obviously, that was a very disheartening thing to listen.
Yeah.
I was very hurt. But I was like, you know what, there's also practicality to what he's saying. So, what else can I do? So I decided to go into coaching. I was like, okay, that will be one way I'll be involved in the sport. That will be one way I'll learn about the sport from a very different side. Coaching the sport versus playing the sport are two very different things. The controlling the chessboard or being a piece on the chessboard.
Right.
So I was like, okay, let me try to be the one who controls the chessboard and see what happens. And yeah, it's just something I thoroughly enjoy and I thoroughly love. And I've not been able to coach since I started working at Tidal, but um, I'm now looking to get back into it because
Awesome.
yeah, because
right in
I
time for
think
the
I've
World Cup
moved
next year.
now. I know my neighborhood a little better. I've settled into my role as well. So I feel now I can dedicate some time to going back into something I really enjoyed.
Are you looking forward to the 2026 World Cup?
World Cup, yeah, absolutely.
Are you
It's the
gonna
biggest part of
go
it.
Mexico and America watch the games?
Let's see.
Right.
Let's see.
Because it's gonna be my first time ever watching a
Yeah.
football game. I'm
Really?
super excited. Yeah, I've never watched one live.
Really?
Ever. No,
Oh,
never.
wow. It's a great experience.
Really?
I've seen quite a lot of football matches. So
Oh, awesome. What's your favorite one?
that I've seen live. I went to see Atletico Madrid back in 2023.
23, I see.
Yeah.
Did they have Griezmann or no?
They had Griezmann then, I think. Yes, they did have Griezmann back then. Great stadium, great atmosphere. Like INSEAD had organized this like sport business trek.
Wow.
So we got we like that. That was another amazing thing, right? Like we got to speak with the executives at Atletico and how the business of sport works.
That's awesome.
We also met with a company that was doing a lot of the redevelopment work for the for Real Madrid Stadium.
Wow, like Bernabeu.
Bernabeu, yeah, because that thing was being reconstructed and like being
I
redeveloped.
remember Santiago was.
Yeah, so I think they were like one of the primary consultants, or one of the consulting firms that were helping them, like a boutique firm. And their office was at like this very high floor in this building, but you could see the stadium right there. Like it was stunning,
That's
right?
awesome.
Yeah, so like that was by far one of the best games I've seen. Then there was one in the.
Who were they playing against?
I forgot who they were playing against. It was a league game.
Oh, just a league.
Yeah, it was a normal La Liga game. There was one game I think where the U.S. women's team were playing in Minneapolis.
Oh, she's not up there.
So like the U.S. women's national team.
Alex Morgan.
Yeah, all of them. Like Carly Lloyd, Alex Morgan, Megan Rapinoe.
I see.
They all were playing that day. It was one of the friendly games. Great atmosphere. Really enjoyed it.
It was in America?
Yes, this was in Minneapolis.
I see.
Then Chelsea had a game against AC Milan in Minneapolis as well for one of their friendlies, like the summer friendly tours that they have. So yeah, I saw one of those games. Saw Oscar, saw Eden Hazard.
Oscar?
Yeah.
Wait, when was this?
This was back in what was the year Chelsea won? That was like 2016, 2017.
Oh, like Hazard's prime.
Yeah.
Wow.
When Diego Costa, Victor Moses.
Costa was still there.
Yes. Oh. That was the season Antonio Conte came to Chelsea. That was his that was the very first season he came to Chelsea. That summer tour was in the US. Wait. And Minneapolis was one of the cities they visited.
I see. Like when N'Golo Kante came to.
Yes.
Wow, that's special.
That was amazing. Like it was. Oh man,
he's a fantastic player. I love Conte, especially 2018. The stuff he did at the World Cup.
Gary was not there then.
Yeah, but I really love just he's always smiling, his endurance, his entire playing style. I really do love it.
70% of the water, 70% of Earth is covered by water. The rest is covered by
Conte. Perfect.
That. So yeah, that was my motivation for going into coaching, and I coached in the US for 4 years while I was there. When I moved over here, I coached for the first 6 months I was here. And yeah, then I got like my role, and now I'm looking to get back again. So,
that's awesome. That's awesome. If there's any teams, let me know as well. I'll try to.
Yeah, sure. Like
I gotta get back. I stopped playing.
I don't play. I mean, I go for academies. So I usually
Sure.
go to academies and see coaching roles over there.
Oh, I see. I
Yeah,
see.
yeah, yeah.
Fair enough. That's awesome. Well, I guess moving on then.
Yes.
Moving on. Talk to me about, you made mention to it, but the INSEAD MBA,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's been recognized as the second best MBA on the planet.
Yep.
Which is
Now
crazy.
fourth, sadly, but
Oh,
we'll
I
get
see.
back up there
Of
for
course.
sure.
But I mean, in the likes of Wharton, Yale, Harvard, all these different schools, INSEAD was lodged in second place.
Yeah, it's always been a top 5 school
Right.
for the most of its.
I told my dad that I was speaking to someone who had an INSEAD MBA. He was just, oh, what? He was very impressed.
That's good to know. Yeah.
But talk to me about that.
So great experience. I mean, very transformational for me, from a professional and from a personal standpoint. Challenging in a lot of ways as well. Um, it's not easy. I didn't find it easy. Again, I didn't have a lot of like the academic experience. Um, and it really took me a while to get into the flow of things because it's very intense. It's a year-long program, so you're basically compressing 2 years of the degree in one.
Interesting.
So a lot of things just come at a very fast speed for you.
Oh, interesting.
But it was also good because you learned how to prioritize a lot of things.
Right, time management.
Time management becomes good. Like, you prioritize, okay, what needs to be done right now? Yes, you have like a 1,500,000 things over there to do. Okay, this is the first thing I need to take care of. Okay, then this, then this, then this. So you learn how to prioritize.
Your days are always busy, right?
Days were always busy, man. Like because not only the other aspect of it, that how I looked at it was, okay, I'm not only going to get the education, I also want to network with the people. So we used to have like a lot of like networking events. We used to have like a lot of informal events as well. Like, where people would meet out, like, there's someone's birthday or we all are meeting over here. Um, that is also a part of the experience, right?
100%.
So that was like that definitely was like some of the best parts of it. Of course, the education was great, like, no doubt. We got to work with like some amazing professors. I got to take some amazing courses, learn some great things. But yeah, like it was challenging for me, and I'm grateful that I got the opportunity to go over there. They considered me good enough to get a seat over there. I mean, yeah, like, and to have such an established institution on your CV, I guess it's I'm truly fortunate.
Right.
But great experience, not easy. Um, Great alumni network for sure, all over the world. Yeah, like, I mean, I forgot to say this, but by far one of the most robust alumni networks I've seen. I can pick almost any country on the planet,
Wow.
and I'm pretty sure there would be an INSEAD alum over there. And that just goes on to show, like, how established of a program it is, and even diversity, right? Like, you touched this right now. Like, we had, like, my cohort had like people from like more than 100 countries, like 120, 130
Wow.
different countries. Yeah.
So a lot of
Yeah,
culture
yeah,
there.
yeah. We had Americans, Canadians, people from Georgia, people from Nigeria, people from the Middle East,
Oh,
people from of all parts of Europe as
right.
well.
Because
Right, right.
yeah,
I mean, we had
that's
people from Spain, we had people from Italy, we had people from Germany, we had people from French, of course. It's a French school. From the UK, we had somebody from Lithuania.
awesome.
So yeah, yeah, we had people from Russia. We had
Did you have to learn French?
Not for the program.
But just
I wanted to learn the language, so I did. So
awesome.
yeah, like,
Just the love of learning.
yeah.
Right?
So I just wanted to learn. I was like, why not? Like, it would help me out living in the country as well. It would allow me to ingratiate into the community easily. So
Right. I mean, I've always wanted to learn like a third language, and I love French.
yeah.
But I feel the problem is I started learning French in grade 5. Right. I came from Bahrain, came over here, grade 5 all the way till grade 10. And I'm pretty sure the only thing I remember is How do I go to the toilet? That's the only thing I remember. And even that, it's like it's blurry in my head right now. Parce que je peux aller à toilette, something like that.
Okay.
Is it?
You said je parle à toilette?
I can't remember. I'm probably butchering it right
You're
now.
saying you're speaking toilets. Like, yeah, no.
Well, never mind. Yeah, so I know nothing in French except bonjour, maybe.
That's good to start. After that, if you're in France and you just say bonjour and then you start, then they'll be like, and then
Did you have to play like a lot of charades with people?
yes and no, because if they see that you can speak French, they assume you know French very well,
Oh,
and then they speak really fast. I listen to it, I process it in Hindi, I think in English, and then I translate in French before I speak. So that's like 24 hours gone by then, like, so time's already passed by. What am I to do now? Like,
fair enough.
so, was not charades per se, but like, if you tell them that, okay, like, I understand this much, what do you mean by the second part? Or like, or can you speak a little slowly? They were very kind about that.
That's awesome. How do you like the whole French culture over there? The food?
Food is okay. I mean, like,
Oh, it's okay.
coming from India, right? I mean,
Oh, fair.
I love my spices.
Right.
So, but the cheese, the wine, the bread, some of the best I've had. Some of the best I've had. French cuisine perhaps is not for me. It's very like, they experiment with a lot of different meats. I don't eat beef, like, so like, they do like, they have the côte de boeuf, like, for example. That's one of their, like, like a very well-known dish around the world.
Croissants as well?
Yeah, croissant, but that's baked goods, right? That's the bread baked goods. Like,
How are the baked goods? I've always
that's
wanted to.
the best I've had. Like the croissants, the breads, the wines, the cheese. Oh man, it's just they know that. They know that. Maybe the French cuisine is maybe not for my palate. Like,
Fair enough.
I'm nobody to say what's good, what's bad. I mean, that's not, maybe it's not something that I may like. But I know a lot of people who eat, like, they were very happy with the food. They loved the food. And yeah, like, I just know that I will not be able to enjoy it that way. So I won't be doing justice to the cuisine if I ever used to like eat it. So
I mean, on top of your INSEAD MBA, everyone knows before you can even apply, you got to do your GMAT, and somehow 96 percentile. Can you talk to me about the process?
Yes, I know the GMAT has, the format of it has changed. At least since when I gave to now, because I think they modified it a little bit. I had to give it quite a few times. I gave it about like 6 times. One, because I suck at giving. Pardon my French, sorry, but like I am really bad at giving standardized tests. I struggled when I gave my SATs. I struggled when I gave my GREs. But GMAT, I was also very motivated to go to like one of the best business schools in the world.
Right.
So I was like, I'm gonna do no matter what it takes to ensure that I get a good score. Another thing with that is because I knew I was not gonna be really, like, it's not gonna work the first time. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, I prepared for 2 months and I got a 750. I'm like, well, lucky you. I wish I was you. That doesn't work for me. It'll take me 20 months to get the same damn score. So I knew that this was gonna be like the biggest hurdle I'll have. So I started preparing way early on for my MBA applications itself. Like, I knew I wanted to enter my business school in 2022.
Right.
Like, I made that target that, okay, by fall of 2022, I will be in one of the business schools I'll apply to. Or like my MBA program will begin in fall of 2022.
Right.
So I started preparing for my GMAT in late 2019, early 2020. Wow. That early on. Why? Because I knew it's going to take me a while to get through GMAT.
When can you do a GMAT? Is it once a year or?
I think they give you like about 4 or 5 attempts in a year. Oh, I see. So I gave one in 2019. I got like a 560 or a 580.
How much is it out of, sir?
800.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, oh, well, this is not a good. But I also didn't prepare that well for it. Like, so
But at least it gave you a little taste of how it is, right?
Yeah, but again, I had way more questions than answers when I was doing that, right? Because I just winged it.
Oh,
I didn't even go with that much preparation. I just
Mhm.
was like, yeah, well, whatever. Let's see what it is. But it burns your money, man. It's like what, like $100, $200 per like for every
test.
single test. Yeah,
1,200. Wow.
it's not fun.
Mm.
Then the pandemic came. During the pandemic, obviously there was a lot of stuff going around. Oh, you can give it virtually. You can do this. You can do that. But I was also very serious then in my preparation. Like I would dedicate a certain number of hours every evening to just be preparing on this. That helped because then I gave my test again. I got like a 610 then. I was like, okay, this is some improvement. Then I got a 650. I gave one of the virtual tests, like, with an online proctor or whatever. So I got a 650 then.
You had to turn on your camera and everything.
Yeah. And this is like in the middle of 2020.
Oh, I see.
And then late 2020 was, or like fall 2020 is when I gave my fifth attempt. That was a 710.
I see.
And then Jan 2021, I gave it one more time and I got 730.
Wow.
That is when I got it. And then I was like, okay, now 2021 has begun. The first, I have like 6 months to prepare for the first round applications because for the fall, they start in the
Right.
fall of the year before.
It's similar to consulting.
Similar,
right?
yeah. So I was like, okay, I have 6 months now to start getting all my application work ready, find the right person to work with. So I took that time, prepared my applications well, and I shortlisted the schools I wanted to go, blah blah blah, and that's when I applied in late summer, early fall. I've applied in the first round for INSEAD as well, and yeah, by the end of 2021, I had like my admission. So
how happy were you when you got the email?
Really, it was a call. It was not even an.
Oh, it was a call.
I just cried, man.
A call from France?
From INSEAD. Yeah, from France. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
They call and they try calling you first.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they email you if they can't.
Oh,
reach you.
okay, yeah.
If they want to give this news.
Yeah, it would probably be really nice, right?
Yeah, it was very emotional. It was like I was very happy. I cried a lot. Just out of the fact that man, I finally
Did it.
I did it.
Six
It's
attempts and
done,
finally you were able
right.
to.
Like it, because you realize what it took to
Right.
get that. So yeah,
And I mean, it's
it was
awesome.
straightforward.
It's awesome just because I really envy you for your ability to keep pushing through, even in the face of all. Because I never would have thought, like, okay, I failed one time. All right, sure, I'll try it again. 2 times, okay, I'll try it again. 3 times, then I would have stopped. I wouldn't have gone 4, 5, and then 6 times.
It was, I had two choices: either give up the idea that okay, I'll go to one of the best business schools in the world and go to like some normal, like not a very high rank program, or just try till you know that okay, yeah, it won't be feasible after this.
I see.
Like even from like the timeline standpoint, it's not gonna work.
I see. So you just wanted to give it your entire all until.
And I knew for a fact that GMAT was the biggest obstacle I'll have. Because the application process after that was actually something I really enjoyed and was way less stressful than the GMAT exam.
Right. Talk to me about the application. Like, what exactly were they asking?
So they asked for a lot of things. I mean, INSEAD, when I was applying or when my cohort was applying, they looked at three key things. I think one of them was leadership, the other one was international experience, and I forgot what the third one was. But a lot of the essays were focused on these three key pillars that they evaluate on because that is the kind of personality they would want in their classrooms.
Fair enough.
So the essays were primarily focused around having the ability to show that that yes, you have had that international exposure, you are like a team player of sorts, you are a global citizen in a way. Um, you have the necessary leadership skills or like somewhat of an experience to show that okay, coming over here will elevate your skills to a further level.
Amplify
And amplify it and like prepare you for where NCRs end up usually. later on in their careers. So the essays were focused on that. And then once the application essays are done, once that is your essay aspect of it, once you submit that and you get shortlisted, then you have your interviews with the alums. About 2 to 3 interviews, I think, happened. For me, there were two. I don't know if some people had three or whatever, but
maybe they just loved you so much.
I had two. Both were really good, both with like very diverse um, alums, like, from what they were doing. Like one of them was in VC, the other was like a sort of a CMO or a head of marketing for a big CPG company in the US.
I see.
Um, yeah, both had like very different set of questions they were asking me, and like it was a very comprehensive process.
That's awesome. I'm very glad you were able to do it.
Yeah, it
all over.
was. Yeah.
It's a rewarding experience, right?
Yeah. So far, I mean, it's the reason why I guess I'm here too. So
I wouldn't say that. You're an amazing person to speak
I'm
to.
glad.
You have an interesting story, and I honestly love it. Now, after INSEAD, talk to me about the recruiting space with that. What was your intention with it? What were you trying to get?
Um, I've told you earlier on that consulting was something that I only learned about once I got into the business school. It's a space that I thought was interesting. It's a space I felt where I could get exposed to many different kind of industries and their problems.
Learn as much as you can,
Yeah,
right?
so thought this would be a good space for me to explore. While at the same time, there were a lot of other industry companies also that were coming. Having had my experience in construction, there was a big construction conglomerate had a really good role, which I felt was like really perfect for me. So I was interviewing with them. I was interviewing with one of the consulting firms as well, the MBBs. Fortunately, I mean, like the market dynamics when my cohort graduated, they were not really good.
Right.
And not
It was
just for
coming
my
out of the
school, not
recession,
not
right?
just for my school, right? I mean, I even my friends who were in other business schools, they echoed the same sentiments that market is not great. Like companies are either not hiring or they've paused on hiring. Companies are either not coming to campus and so on. Um, so it was a difficult atmosphere to graduate in.
Right.
I think seeing all of that happen, obviously, I was very sad. I was very upset with how my journey at INSEAD ended.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause that's not how you always anticipate,
That's
right?
not
I
what
mean,
the
yeah,
golden
right. I
ticket looks
mean,
like,
yeah,
right?
exactly, right. I mean, you feel that, oh, like, you went, you did all of this, you went to the best business schools, like, man, I should be having like 3, 4 job offers lined up. But then that's when the realization hits that, okay, yeah, you can be a part of such a great institution, but there are factors which are even beyond that influence what happens to you after that. Um,
And
that
at
was
your
a big
time,
realization for me as well. To learn the fact that okay, yeah, like okay, yes, you have this, but there are no guarantees at the end of the day.
right.
And I guess um, I was just silly enough to think that would be true. Um, and I guess that's just a lack of understanding on my part for how business schools work. But now that I've come on to the other side, I realize that yes, that's how it is. You go to the school to ensure you have a great network, you are connected to really good alums, and it's not a guarantee that like you'll get your dream job straight out. Um, so yeah, that happened. I graduated, and I was like, okay, well, now what do I do? I'll continue applying for roles, having those networking calls with alums and so on, learning about what they are doing. Um, and it's also that sort of a self-imposed pressure that at least I put on myself that I wanted to make sure I had a job straight out of college or straight out of the MBA program. Um, I guess that was not the right thing to do because I know a lot of my colleagues who like had a different background. They were like, "Yeah, it's okay, man. Like if the market is bad, we can take our time to figure out what we want to do." I was like, "No, I really want to like." I just had that anxiety of like, I want to get something out of this. Um, So thanks to like a lot of conversations with my friends, like career coaches and all, they sort of helped me out over here. And they're like, okay, like find ways that you can do to upskill yourself in the meanwhile. Yes, your profile is good. You have an INSEAD MBA now, but see what you can do to bolster this even further. So that is when I started looking for opportunities, and I was like, okay, I found a role with a generative AI startup um, based out of here to do strategy for them. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. It's in the field of AI. It's with a startup. It's a tech related thing. Why not just give it a shot? Like if anything, you learn something new. And at the same time, I was having the opportunity of working with a venture capital fund based out of the UK because one of the partners over there was an INSEAD alum.
I see.
So that's how I got connected to him. I reached out to him. I'm like, okay, you guys look into like industrial companies, like engineering based companies, tech related startups and stuff. I feel I can add some value over here, coming from an engineering background. But in exchange, I would love to learn how VCs and everything work.
Right. So you offer
Um,
something and you take a little bit of something.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And they were happy with that. They were like, okay, yeah, sure. Like, they're like, look, it's not gonna be paid. So I'm like, look, I wanna learn. Like, totally fine. It's with it not being paid. I get it. The market is not great or whatever. Um, but the learning that I had in that role was just extremely invaluable. Like, I thank them even now that you guys like introduced me to an industry I had no idea about. And it's a very exciting space. So yeah, I did that for about like a year. Worked in the startup for like about 6, 8 months. Worked with the VC until like last August. I started with them in September or October, and I worked until like last September or August as
See,
well.
for like a whole year?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was with them for a whole year because I really enjoyed that.
That's amazing.
And then once I moved over here, I was applying for roles. I was applying for like opportunities here. I had interviews and stuff, and then I got my break at Tidal. So
Talk to me about Tidal Commerce. How was that?
it's a great company. We are a boutique consulting firm. We primarily focus on e-commerce and tech for enterprise clients. We not only do strategy for them, we also build the solution out for them.
I see.
We
So
have-
rather than just planning, you plan and do.
we deliver the solution as well to our clients. Um, yeah, it's we have some really interesting clients we have worked with that we are working with, and they have
OVO
done-
as well.
Yes, that was one of them from what I know. And yeah, we have like a great pipeline of some exciting clients lined up. So looking forward to what that grows into.
Awesome. And I also had the opportunity to chat to Dennis, the founder of Tidal. He actually came on the podcast as well, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And I love the
Great guy,
environment
right?
behind it.
Yeah,
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 amazing
he's a
guy. He's always
very-
smiling. It's amazing when he really inspired me.
He
It-
drives the culture a lot in the organization as well.
Mhm.
Like culture is a huge aspect for him. And it's also something that in any company I go for, I look for as well. The culture is good. The people you see on a day-to-day basis are people you like seeing, like being around. Makes your job much
A lot
easier for
easier.
sure.
Yeah, I remember the very first time I remember now. The very first time I met him was at Schulich. It was a career fair, right? And I actually didn't have my name on the list. I didn't. So I was able to.
You just showed up. Gate crashed.
I got I was wearing something really informal, like a jersey, I think. I took one of my friend's quarter zippers and I was like, I'll return it. Give me a little bit. So I slipped underneath the thing and then I just started networking. And I that was my first time ever doing it. I had no idea how it worked. But then I just saw Dennis and he had like colorful colors, whereas everyone else was, really accounting, dull colors. So I was like, all right, you know what? Let me just go for that. The entire time I was just sitting with Dennis talking about Alex Ramosi, books and stuff. And I was like, you know what? He'd be a sick guy to have on the podcast.
Yeah,
And then that's where
he's
I
lovely.
started.
Yeah.
And it was amazing meeting you the second time as well.
Yeah. I know we met at Schulich as well. One of the events over there.
I slipped underneath as well.
Even for that. Are you sure you can say this on record? If Schulich folks listen, they'll be like, hey, well, you need to pay us now.
No, it was unpaid. You just had to register.
Okay.
Yeah. If it was paid, I definitely would.
They'll keep an eye out this time. They'll be like, yo, you didn't have a name this time. So.
It's actually very interesting because both times, Tidal was the only one I talked to, which is very, very interesting. I don't know why, but just, it's crazy how life works out, right? Like, from one interaction, you got to build a lasting relationship with two people who actually came on the podcast.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
that's good. Yeah, there are a lot of like other interesting people.
Of course, yeah.
So.
Maybe I'll talk to them too.
Yeah, why not? Of course.
And yeah, I mean, as for final remarks, right? You've chatted about everything, but if you had a time machine, you could go all the way back. What advice would you give yourself? It's a good question, eh?
It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be linear, but it'll be fine.
And
It's taken me a while to also realize that, though, because there was a big period of time where I was like, "Oh man, I think my life's done. I think nothing's gonna work out." It's just the phase you're in at that moment where nothing is working out for you. And again, there's no guarantees that, like, something like this will it's inevitable to happen. It's never gonna be nice. It's never gonna be bad. If anything, I've learned how to deal with adversity better the next time it comes.
That's true. Yesterday I spoke to an amazing lad who lives all the way in Texas. His name is Chris Buffing. Surprised he's coming on the podcast. But anyway, he was talking to me about how, and he's gonna say this on the podcast as well. In 2020, when the pandemic hit, he got hit with severe depression. Right, 8 months. He was working in Google. He had experience in Oracle. Fantastic guy. Very accomplished. Right. But when the pandemic hit and he was kind of, isolated, and he was on a rise as well, in the sense that, okay, he finally got that Google role, and Google, I'm pretty sure, is a 0.02% acceptance rate, which is
very low.
crazy, right? And he was going to all these seminars that Google paid for and all these different things. So when that happened and he just crashed down, he told me that it was very bad, yes, but going back to the yin and yang thing I mentioned, I feel that without the darkness, you can't really have light, right? Like, if everything's good, then there is no good. It's just normal. You know what I mean?
Agreed. No, and that's why I said, right? Like, I mean, I've been very fortunate to have had the opportunities I did in my life. Yeah, it was tough when things didn't go the way you expected them to. But that is life, man. I mean, you got to learn from that. But I accept that it's a part and parcel of it, and grow from it.
I mean, it worked out very nicely for you. Mature, amazing, smart.
Yes.
Well, apart from that, Karan, thank you so much for
Thank you
coming
so
on the
much,
podcast. Honestly,
Appreciate it.
genuinely had a very good time with you.
I'm glad, man. I'm
And
glad.
thank you for
Likewise.
talking about your journey.
Thank you. Pleasure.
And KKC Consulting, forgot the cameras right there. But anyway, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Keep in touch for next week's. I honestly don't know who the guest is, so we'll find out together. Thank you so much. Okay.